Hi friends, Rebecca here. I just wanted to jump in and remind you one last time that this episode was recorded a really long time ago, back when I was 9 months pregnant. So we were still kind of figuring out the podcasting thing, and I might have been doing some heavy breathing. Alan says it's not noticeable, but he's my loving husband. He's supposed to make me feel better. I think that maybe it is kind of noticeable, and I'm sorry if it bothers anyone. I was so pregnant that everything made me out of breath, even sitting down. And so I tried my best to lean away from the microphone, but it didn't really work. But we couldn't help it. We had to release this episode because it was so fun to record. It was recorded prior to us having a tagline at the beginning of the show, so I'll say that now. This is the podcast that brings college-level analysis to preschool-level content, and it is a special episode. It is the first episode of Alan Guesses the Plot, in which Alan is going to guess the plot of Disney Pixar's Cars. I'm sure past me will tell you all about that. So please enjoy, and please forgive us if there are a couple of whoopsie daisies. We were still figuring things out. I'll talk to you later. And now turning it over from present Rebecca to past Rebecca and Alan. Hello, and welcome back to Not Again, a podcast by two parents who are trying to stay sane by yelling at podcasts instead of yelling into the void. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Alan.
And we are recording episode, what we call 0, because we don't actually know when this is going to get posted. It might be for special Patreon supporters, or it might be just I release it after Corey Carson. Who knows? So I'm going to be doing a little bit of the talking here to start with, so that we can lay the groundwork, and then we're going to turn it over to Alan. If you want to know what this show is about, I would recommend episode 1, which is Corey Carson season 1, episode 1. I do the long intro there. So here's the deal. One of the movies that Warren, our son, recently picked up and started watching again and again is Disney Pixar's Cars, because when quarantine happened, we decided we were going to pay money to Disney Plus, even though we previously thought we would not do that because Disney did not deserve any of our money. And the interesting thing about Cars is, even before Warren discovered it, I had seen it. And you
had not. No.
Had not. But you have seen... See, we were calling it Cars 3. I think you've actually seen Cars 2.
I'm not sure.
Cars 2 is the one with the spies.
Yeah, I have seen parts of that one because we have a friend whose kid was obsessed with that movie.
Yes, and it was on Netflix for a while.
Yes.
Which is how that was in the background.
Yeah.
So what I thought would be fun is if I let Alan tell me what he thinks Disney Pixar's Cars is about. Here, I'm going to quickly lay the groundwork. You already know that there is a race car named Lightning McQueen.
Yes, I know there are race cars involved.
Yes, and so the main race car is Lightning McQueen, and there is a tow truck. I was going to say a pickup truck. Sorry, that's different. A tow truck named Mater.
Yeah.
And because I've fetched about it a little bit, you know that there is some form of romantic...
There is a love interest
arc. Yes. And so...
no idea.
That's about it. And so because the idea of having sentient cars is always a little bit ridiculous, I thought it'd be fun if you tried to actually suss out what it's about. And I might jump in to ask you like a question here or there, but...
Great.
Other than that, for $1 million that I don't have, and also we would already be sharing it.
I mean, it'd be my $1 million if it was your $1 million.
Before you jump into your plot, let's see, how do I put this? There is a love interest. The love interest is a sexy car.
Sure.
I'm just gonna sit here laughing at the idea of a sexy car. She is female. I don't know how you tell that, but we're keeping this podcast PG, so we also can't discuss it. What make do you think the love interest would be?
Okay. I am a little bit of a car enthusiast. Not like a lot, but like I've seen and heard of cars throughout history that might be interesting enough to show up. So here's my guess. One of the prettiest cars to ever exist is a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia.
Too specific. You got to go with only make. Like if it
Only
like
make.
you know you wouldn't choose a Volkswagen as a sexy love interest car.
Like a Bentley, they're very pretty but they're boats. They're huge.
Yeah, you want
so you
sleek
couldn't do that. So you
female,
want sleek
sexy.
female. I mean, you're gonna have to tell me in like one more guess. An Aston Martin.
Oh, I don't know.
That's like the James Bond car.
Yeah, that's the James Bond car. You're definitely thinking along the right lines, but you're going to smack your forehead when I tell you. But I'm actually going to leave that as a mystery for you.
Okay, fine.
Because I want to hear your hot take, and by that I mean your guess as to what this movie could possibly be about.
Sure.
I don't want to lead you too far, but sometimes having a little bit of a heading helps. And I have also complained about the plot involving this race car needing to learn that Southerners are okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little later. But this has been enough intro. Mm-hmm. Take it away. What do you think Cars is about?
Well, Lightning McQueen car is the main character, and he is a red race car. I believe the kind of racing they intend us to imply, I don't know if it's ever said, is NASCAR racing. So they're on a loop, they turn the one direction, they go around and around in that circle. Not the band One Direction, just the regular One Direction. And so he is a hot-headed race car person object.
Yeah, sentient object.
Sentient object who thinks he is the best. So he has to, not be the best and then learn to be the best again. This is not a great plot, and I'm writing it. I am so sorry.
Don't apologize. I want to jump in to say that I'm cracking up because I've been trying so hard to mitigate my heavy breathing that is from being very, very pregnant. At time of recording, I'm still 9,000 months pregnant.
Yeah.
I should probably get that checked out. I don't think it's supposed to go that long.
It's not.
So I'm sitting here leaning back away from the microphone, letting you talk, and then our dog Radar, who cannot leave our side, is literally wedged in between us, panting heavily.
That could be in the audio.
And I'm hoping the audio won't pick it up, but if it does,
that's what that is.
Please don't attribute it to me.
Dog.
Yeah, it's our needy dog who's panting and not me. I mean, every deep breath in you hear is probably me, but the panting is the dog.
Let's blame the dog. Let's blame it all on the dog.
So you are right that he's a hot-headed race car, and he needs to learn humility, which I think is funny.
Oh, I didn't get that. I mean,
well, that's what you said. Yeah. He needs to learn he's not the best.
But then he learns that he's the best again by the end of the movie, obviously. He wins the big race, because there's got to be some sort of big race.
Well, yeah, there has to be a big race, because he's a race car.
He can't, win the basket weaving competition.
Oh, my God, but I would pay to watch that.
He learns that he's an artist and always wanted to speak through dance.
I want to jump in and say that I didn't see this movie in theaters. I was a Pixar fan, but Cars, I was kind of disgusted at the idea, and so I saw it with my best friend on video or DVD or whatever on her laptop or something, long after it came out. That's how I had seen it, and now I've seen it again and again and again because Warren watches it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he has to learn. I mean, this is Disney, so we have the great irony of Disney constantly having characters that need to learn humility and not to be arrogant.
Yeah, and that's what they are. So here's a story, and this might need a little fact checking, but I'm pretty sure I've got it 80% right. Is Disney Pixar made this movie called Up?
Yes,
and Up won a award in some sort of foreign film festival, in France, Cannes or something like that. And the Disney stock price went down because they were like, oh, no one's going to go watch this movie. And then they announced some sort of sequel to Cars, either 2 or 3, and then their stock price went back up. So this is obviously a franchise that they used to pad their numbers.
This is low-hanging fruit, but you're telling me that Up made their stocks go down?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. The irony is too much for me. Well, you haven't even guessed, though, how Mater, voiced by Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, is that who it is?
Yeah.
I thought it was Jeff Foxworthy.
No, the other Southern comedian.
Okay, sure.
But Lightning McQueen is Owen Wilson.
Okay.
Wow. Oh my God. And the low hanging fruit is now just on the ground.
Well, if you get one, I get one.
That's true. Fair enough. How does Mater, that's his name.
Yep.
How does Mater come into play? A rusty old junky tow truck.
So Lightning McQueen, after learning some humility by losing a race, goes on what would a car use as like a bender? Like drink too much oil? Like I have no idea.
They do. So I'll tell you this much because it has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. They do have 2 scenes in the movie.
Okay.
One is of him drinking oil. The other is of him at a gas pump getting gas. So like they didn't decide how he was going to ingest.
No.
Like they just went with both.
One is in his mouth, one is in his side butt.
Okay, again, that's the highest level of PG.
Yeah, we're going to say
side
butt. Butt is allowed on this podcast.
The exhaust pipe is probably closest.
But you know how your like fuel tank, you have like a side butt.
It's definitely on his side. Anyway, yes, I know how I have my fuel tank, but I didn't know how anyone else did.
We are sentient cars, actually. You can't see us. That's what we look like.
For sure. So he goes on but this is also a kids movie, so actually I'm gonna push back on myself here and say they still have stoner jokes. So.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
So he goes on some kind of fuel bender.
So yeah, he goes on some sort of fuel and or oil bender and gets like put on one of those trucks that carries a bunch of cars.
Okay.
Like he's gonna somebody says like, hey, we're all going to Tulsa, and he's like, yeah, let's go, and he gets on the bus. It's not a bus; it's one of those trucks that carries a bunch of cars.
I'm surprised you don't know what that kind of truck is called.
It's just a car carrying truck. I don't have.
Let's call it a car carrier.
If it has a special name, I want to know it, and I'm going to learn it after this podcast. But
I'll Google it for you later.
It's got the shelves. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, everyone knows what you're talking about. I just assumed that you would know the official name.
I mean, I guess of all people, I probably should know what it's called, but I do not.
Remember, in season 1, episode 1 of Corey Carson, and episode 1 of this show, I asked you if buses have motors. So. Like, I'm not the car expert here. No, that's fine. So he gets loaded up.
He gets loaded up, and he wakes up, the next morning in the middle of a cactus patch, and with his tires flat because of needles, the cactus.
Sure.
And he's just like, oh, man, how much oil did I drink last night? I probably have too much oil in my oil pan.
Okay.
And then, Mater comes up over the hill and just it's like, hi, I'm Larry the Cable Guy. This is my Larry the Cable Guy accent. Because I can't do it. And he goes like, you need to get hauled out of there. And he's like, well, I don't not need to. And then, I don't know, they go on a couple of dates.
Oh wow!
I don't know.
There's a homosexual bent to it. That's fine. They do kind of. They have a very sweet story together. I could see that they're in love.
Well, I mean,
it's like when you have a love story like Romeo and Juliet, two sides of different worlds, all that kind of thing. Like we have Mater, who's kind of a junky car, and then the sleek race car. Okay. However, I did tell you that he's a heterosexual.
You did tell me that. Because there's a love story.
I'm laughing at the idea of a heterosexual car.
No,
but yeah,
they're bros.
They're bros.
And we don't need to gloss over other kind of male relationships.
Yeah.
They can just be like really close friends.
Sure, absolutely.
So, yeah, and then he learns the value of friendship somehow.
I'll give you a ding, ding, ding on that one. He does need to learn the value of friendship.
Okay.
And he does that through Mater.
He is racing too hard in preparation for the big race that's coming up.
Yep.
And he falls into a gorge.
Wow, he keeps falling into things.
Yeah, well, I mean, what else can cars do, really? I have no idea.
This is the eternal question of our lives, because if there is a show or a movie out there that features sentient vehicles, we've seen it.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly asking these questions.
Oh, he falls into a gorge. And only Madar.
Well, our dog's Radar, so
yes,
there you go.
So sorry about that. only Mater can save him. But Mater is jilted because he said, I don't need you, buddy. You're not the friend in me.
Okay.
Well, that's Toy Story.
They had a fight.
You've got a friend in me.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not that. And then he goes, oh, I learned my lesson through imminent demise. The only way to learn a lesson that doesn't actually count. And then Mater pulls him out, and he goes, it was you all along. You were the only thing keeping me together. And then...
Oh, so Mater pulls like a Han Solo, fine, just I'll leave you alone, but then comes back in at the last second to save him. Okay.
Yep. And Chewbacca was there. No, I have no idea. Well, actually, that's the worst, because actually Disney owns them both, so they could just shove them in there.
Yeah.
That makes me feel so sad.
Yeah.
I wish there were separate companies.
Yeah, it would be really nice if monopolies didn't exist.
If I couldn't actually say that and they could do it.
Yeah, no, so big race happens, right? Like the big race has to happen.
I have to ask a question.
Okay.
Of you.
Yes.
And you're allowed to not tell me.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's a traditional 3-act, I assume. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Is the big race in the second act, or is it in the third act? Is this the end of the movie? The big race?
So what's interesting, I'll tell you this, is there's a big race at the beginning and at the end.
Well, yeah, but not in the middle.
No, not really. The big race, and at this point, I hope that everyone hears the capital letters in my voice and your voice. The big race does happen in the third act. It's the climax. We need to.
So there's an establishing race at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where he gets his hat handed to him and learns that he's not the best, even though he totally thought he was. And then he goes to the south and meets Rust. And
wait, he meets the oxidized substance known as Rust, or he meets somebody named Rust?
Well, no, he meets Mater.
Oh, Mater, whose name is Rust. Yes, okay,
Rust.
Got it. So he
meets the concept of Rust and therefore his own mortality.
And we have to clarify, because you said NASCAR.
Yeah.
Like, he's already in the South, supposedly.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But he goes deeper.
I mean, some of them are in, Indiana, but a lot of them are in the South.
He goes deeper south.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, where you would hear an accent like Larry the Cable Guy's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's from Iowa or something, and it's all fake, but it doesn't matter.
I know one fact about Larry the Cable Guy, and it's because I watched the Disney Channel once upon a time when Cars was coming out, and here's something, again, it doesn't have a bearing on the plot. Mater is really good at driving backwards.
Okay.
And Larry the Cable Guy says this is because he can turn his feet all the way around.
Okay.
And those are not related in my mind. I'm like, one is disgusting and a body oddity, and not that you're disgusting if you're a contortionist or anything like that. I just mean one is
it's a weird thing to see
and then he demonstrated, and I was like, ugh, I get squeamish very easily. And the other is like being able to move backwards. But yeah, so anyway, that's all I know about Larry the Cable Guy. Oh, and his catchphrase, right? Get her done.
Yeah, get her done.
That's actually in the movie.
Oh, well, of course.
So, yeah. Anyway, big race time.
Okay. Well, I'm sure I haven't even mentioned a love story.
That's okay.
And there's got to be this is completely Rebecca's fault. She let slip that what was it? Paul Newman was in this movie.
Yes, Paul Newman is in this movie.
The famous salad dressing guy.
Yeah, he made some lemonade too once.
Well, he okay. This is a side podcast because I have to now pretend to know the plot of Cars and also who Paul Newman is. Paul Newman was an actor, and then he was involved in racing, but he was mostly just like a sponsor, I think. Like, he just had money and he loved the sport.
You are asking me, and I don't know
then
this.
He got into salad dressing and charity, and then I was surprised to learn that he was still alive at the time of the filming of this movie, because he has now since departed.
I know very few facts about most of these people. Owen Wilson has a brother. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan or Luke or something.
It's one of those two.
Or both.
Yes, Paul Newman is in it somewhere, because I let that slip. And
let that slip.
There's a love interest
somewhere. There's a love interest. So
how do cars fall in love?
How do cars fall in love? Anyways, so he's got to learn before the big race. He has to learn something about racing that makes him regain his confidence in himself So he, I don't know, gets new tires or something.
Ding, ding, ding.
What? That's
no, that's not how he regains his confidence. Well, I mean,
that's not supposed to be right.
Yeah,
on any level. So he gets some new tires,
Sure.
and Paul Newman tells him that he can do it, bud.
Yeah, just like
and
that.
He's got it all figured out. You just got to believe in the heart of the cards, and you'll do it. The love interest. Now, this one baffles me a little bit.
Yeah.
So, the love interest is the one who won the race in the immediate beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And she broke his confidence. I'm giving this movie too much credit all of a sudden.
You are, yeah.
And he has to learn that that's okay.
That women can win races.
So never mind, I'm wrong.
let me. I think you did a great job. I think my one question is this: at the end of the movie, does he win the big race?
Oh, absolutely.
Or lose it? He wins the big race,
and
that's like the big woo.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, unless this is Rocky 1, like, of course he wins the big race. Like, who doesn't win the big whatever at the end of the movie?
Right. Okay. I'm going to reveal it now.
Okay.
If you smack your forehead, could you please just
I'll do it off the microphone.
No, do it close to the mic so that
Okay.
everyone can hear you smacking your forehead.
Look, I'm not right. Like, I don't have illusions. Like,
No.
I was so close.
No, I was just going to tell you what make the love interest is.
Sure.
The love interest is a female Porsche.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. So, or Porsche. I think they say Porsche, in the movie.
In German.
It is hilarious to me that you think that they would allow a woman to be a race car.
Okay. Wrong there.
Yeah. So I actually wish that they had gone with your kind of more feminist bent.
Well, no, I corrected myself immediately. There's no way.
They wouldn't have. No,
I
they
said
did
I was
not.
giving this too much credit when I came up with that idea.
I mean, I know one or two things about NASCAR: big explosions and driving around in a circle.
Yeah.
And, many, many, many laps, like hundreds of laps.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it is also a sex segregated sport like basketball, right?
Surprisingly not. There was one Formula One driver, I believe, Danica Patrick.
Yeah, Danica Patrick's famous.
Who did do NASCAR for a while.
But in the same circuit as the male drivers?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just it's not likely to see a female driver, but
the fact that I can name the only one, probably. Correct me at home. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. We'd be interested to hear. And I want to say something right now. I am not trying to disparage anybody's interests in entertainment or sports.
No.
I grew up watching baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball was my thing, and I mean that one can get pretty boring. A lot of people joke about it. I'm fine with that. But Dodger games with my dad, that's about it. So we've been talking kind of long, so I don't have notes on this. I'm just gonna tell you some main points.
Yeah, tell me what actually happens.
Number one, Owen Wilson car is a race car named Lightning McQueen.
Mm-hmm. I knew that from t-shirts.
There are lots of fans who like his show-offy style, including some sentient trailers. And I want to start by saying that the trailers in the audience act in a certain way as to make a statement about who Disney Pixar thinks lives in trailers. Okay. And it is not a compliment.
That is a little gross, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of upset by that. I will also say that, because there's nowhere else to really put this is a world where every living creature is a car. Mm-hmm. And I think they probably did that for consistency's sake, but I also think they kind of did that because they wanted to get a joke in there about VW bugs being bugs. Actual bugs. Yes, so they're little flies and they're VW bugs. And this is, speaking of low-hanging fruit 20 minutes ago. Yeah. So there is a big race. It is called the Piston Cup. I literally cannot tell you, that could very well be a real race.
I'm pretty sure not.
I don't think it is, but it is the Piston Cup. And Lightning McQueen is all full of himself, and they're racing, and there's two other important race cars. One of them is named Chick, and he's the bad guy, sort of, in that he is competitive. He exhibits a lot of the same qualities as Lightning.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But in the end, while Lightning has learned his lesson, Chick is still a jerk. I'm trying to censor myself. There's other words I would use for him. And so they're doing this big race, and there's also I feel horrible, but I think he's literally called King, but I can't tell if that's his name or if it's because he's the king of the track. But he's this blue race car with a big spoiler who is retiring, I believe, and this is his last race. And he's the other important like race car character, and they are racing for this cup, and Lightning refuses to go into the pit stop because he doesn't want to lose. Okay. And so he has 2 tire blowouts right at the finish line, like a little bit before the finish line.
Right.
And Chick, and I'm going to call him King. I literally, like I said, no notes.
Close enough.
Are coming up on him. And he's like limping towards the finish line. And then he sticks his tongue out.
Okay.
Because he has a giant car tongue.
Tongues,
okay, I want you to accept this.
I don't.
And they take a picture. It's a photo finish, and it's a 3-way tie because Chick and King pass the finish line at the same time, or touch the finish line at the same time as Lightning McQueen's tongue. And so it's a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
And so in 1 week, they have to do a race in California, I think, which I'm from California, and I didn't even know that there were racetracks there. So they're going to California, and Lightning has to get loaded up into his friend, a Mack truck named Mack. I can't believe I just said that, but he does.
Get loaded up into your friend.
Mack, played by, of course, John Ratzenberger. Did I get his name right? Ratzenberger?
I do not know.
He's the Pixar guy who's the voice of, like, one voice in every Pixar movie. Okay. He's the whatchamacallit? I was going to say hamster, but that's not it. Piggy Bank. There we go.
Ham.
In Toy Story.
Sure.
And he's the School of Fish in Finding Nemo and things like that.
Okay.
So
all right.
He gets loaded up into Mack, but Chick has, because the other car is retiring, his very prestigious sponsors are looking for a new car.
I didn't even think of sponsors.
Yeah, so they're looking, and like Chick is like, I'm gonna get that sponsorship or whatever. I forget. I don't know who voice acts him, and I don't. Yeah. Anyway, and Lightning's like, no, I want it, man. And so they're kind of racing to California. Chick says something about how they like
the first one to get there
will have alone time with this new sponsor.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a time crunch, which leads Lightning to say to Mack that he needs to drive all night. And then Mack falls asleep on the road. Mm-hmm. And through a ridiculously contrived series of circumstances, Lightning falls out of the truck, gets lost. This is great. He's speeding along in like a dirt road, and a cop car finds him and turns on his sirens. And Lightning goes, oh, maybe he can help me. But then the cop car starts backfiring. And he's like, oh, no, he's shooting at me. And it's like, with what?
He doesn't have hands.
I mean, look, I fully believe that the cop would start shooting, but like, where's the gun? In his mouth? Poor.
No, okay.
So yeah. Anyway, so through contrived circumstances, right. Lightning McQueen.
But does he end up in a cactus patch?
At some point, yes.
Okay.
But did you see that or something?
No.
Oh wow, you just predicted that. Yeah.
You gotta get stuck there, and
So he gets all tied up in some stuff and destroys a road in a small town. It's like the one road that leads into and out of this small town. The small town is called Radiator Springs. Huh. And this
there's Radium Springs in New Mexico.
Maybe I
don't
know. It's on Route 66. To be. So.
Yeah.
And so he gets dragged into court in this small town, and the judge is also the doctor, is also retired race car.
What kind of car is the judge?
This is Paul Newman.
That's Paul Newman?
Paul Newman car.
Okay.
See, he's secretly, like, they call him Doc, and I think at some point he's doctoring. So, but like...
I think that might be some sort of reference to a Paul Newman movie, but I don't know which.
Yeah, whatever. Stop talking about Paul Newman. Nobody cares. Yeah. Sorry, Paul Newman. You seem like a great guy up in heaven or whatever.
Your charity and dressing.
So Doc takes one look at him, sees that he is a race car, and mysteriously is like, never mind, let him go. Then a sexy car enters the courtroom, and Lightning McQueen immediately sexually harasses her. Like, just 0 to sexual harassment in no time flat whatsoever. That's the love interest Porsche.
Okay. He still hasn't learned his lesson.
No.
But I'm going to go right now that he never does.
Yeah, questionable. And I'm doing this all from memory because the title of this podcast is Not Again, and I've seen it a lot. So he thinks that she is his lawyer because she's a lawyer.
Okay.
Because she's a good-looking car as opposed to all these southern cars that look awful and or are migrants or minorities. Like it's really it's bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's very problematic. But it turns out she's the town's lawyer, and she urges Paul Newman Carr to actually make Lightning McQueen fix the road. And so they do that, and he needs to fix the road, and Mater's there. He's a tow truck. He lives there.
He show up?
He showed up to, like, say hi to Lightning, who was sleeping it off in... I don't know. They did a cutaway, so I don't even know how he fell asleep. Maybe he hit his head on something. I don't know.
Sure.
But he was in not the junkyard, but like the impound lot or something like that.
Yeah.
That's where you get taken. It's car jail, right?
It's car jail.
Right. So Mater just showed up and was like, "Ha, I'm Mater," and he says his famous line of like, "It's like tuh Mater without the tuh." And
did not know, but all
yeah,
right.
Well, you know nothing about this movie. Anyway, so Mater's there, and he kind of just like hooks Lightning McQueen up to this tarring machine that's supposed to retar the road, and then prattles at him in Southern for a while. Again, not trying to disparage these people. Disney Pixar certainly was trying to disparage these people. Yeah. And so that leads to the question. So basically, most of, if not all of the second act happens in Radiator Springs, where he's supposed to learn humility, and he's also supposed to learn, like, people from the Deep South are people too. And when I say people, everyone, I mean cars.
Yes.
But, like, this is where we ran into problems, right? Because that means that the movie makers certainly don't seem to think so. Yeah. And they certainly don't seem to think that we think they're people. Yeah. And
so we have to, like, and, like, he's a NASCAR, and he
that's his, not constituents. He's not a politician. That's his fan base.
Close enough, yeah.
Right? Like, he's a NASCAR race car.
Yeah.
Southerners are his fans.
Predominantly,
he should, I'm not going to say only Southerners, but certainly, he should already respect them.
Talladega is in Alabama, I think.
mean, it would make more sense if he thought himself above everyone universally, because he's a celebrity.
And he did harass that woman.
Yeah, but he seems like specifically to only disparage people from small towns.
These people with their accents.
Yes, exactly. These cars with their southern accents, and they're rusty, and they live in small towns, and they don't even know about NASCAR, and I'm so much above them, and I need to learn that they're... Like, I don't know, man. There are trailers in his audience, remember, who have those southern accents, and so it's weird that he has to kind of learn the humility there, and of course also... learn to not sexually harass women, and he will be rewarded with a relationship by doing this. But of course, the one time they almost kiss, they're cut off by Mater in a helicopter because nobody wants to see cars kissing. Like, no. Or anything else. And honestly, everything that happens is irrelevant. He goes on adventures. He learns that these are people too. There is two Italian vehicles. Okay. One of them is a forklift, but and they're immigrants. And there are two. I was gonna say,
so they're not even like other race cars, because Italians make race cars.
They make a joke about how he's like, oh, and I'm not gonna do the accent.
Yeah, obviously.
But he's like,
one, we can't, and two, it's wrong.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you're a race car. I love race cars. I've followed race cars my whole life. And then when he finds out that he's like, how many Ferraris do you know? And he's like, no, I'm in the American circuit. And the Italian car is like, oh, never mind then. Like, so they're not race cars. But they own a tire store.
Oh, right. See,
and they
I got that one.
So, and then there's two, I was going to say people of color, but cars of color. I'm not going to get into it because as a white person, like if you saw a Jewish stereotype, I would tell you all about it. But as a white person who is not of Hispanic or African-American descent, I'm not going to touch this one. I get the impression they are not represented very well.
Yeah, I imagine it's not great.
Let's just leave it at that. They're married. So the two people of color on the cast are married. Not that they can't. I'm not saying...
But that's a thing,
it's like, it seems to make white people more comfortable when, like...
No, it's a common trope in all sorts of, like, sitcoms and whatever, that, like...
Yeah.
The one time somebody who looks somewhat like that other person shows up, they're going to fall in love.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And I mean,
or the second gay person on the show is the person who's going to fall in love with the first gay person. Yes,
because all gay people immediately will love each other,
which is not the way that works.
I point to a very not very recent, but a somewhat recent, like couple years ago, Saturday Night Live sketch, where there were women who were learning to be pickup artists. I think this was the joke.
Oh, okay.
And there was a black actress, and she walked right past like two white dudes to the only other black dude, I think Kenan Thompson, in the bar to try her moves on him. Like even SNL would not even like suggest that interracial couples could happen. It's problematic. I ended up talking about it anyway. I don't like the way these people are represented.
Yeah.
I like representation. I don't like stereotypes.
Yeah. It's just very lazy.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. And
But if somebody of Hispanic descent or an African American person came up to me and said, actually, I think that they were represented fine. I thought they were funny. I would just be like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, great. Whatever. Good to know. You're the authority on this. Certainly not me.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you not to like something.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, white people seem to think they have the end all be all say on things, and I certainly do not. So, so he just learns to like these people, I guess. Meanwhile, his truck, Mac, arrives at the scene of the race, not realizing that his butt is empty, and his best friend isn't in there.
His best friend isn't in his butt anymore.
I mean, what do you call the trailer of?
Yes.
Yeah. So they all think Lightning McQueen is missing. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. So Lightning learns that this town has a rich history, but the introduction of a highway or something made people bypass the town, and so now the town's really down and out. And he like helps to fix up the town, and like I don't know, he gets new tires.
Sure.
And they're like Italian or something. Anyway, he learns that Paul Newman car, Doc, is an X-race car from the 50s, the Hudson Hornet. That's what he was called. And no, I don't know what make of car he is.
No, I can't clean it from Hudson Hornet.
I can picture. He's old school looking car. I can picture it in my head, but I don't know cars well enough to tell you.
Okay.
He learns this, but Doc is disillusioned about the racing business because he got in a bad accident on the track once, like a crash.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Like
back
in the 50s.
I've got to interrupt you because that's something that like we need to talk about because like cars crash all the time and it's super dangerous, and lots of cars, if they were just cars in a race, would like die and get crushed and stuff. And like
they crash a lot on the track in this movie, and it is like akin to severe injury. But I don't know about that. I was going to bring it up because I'm pretty sure, and again, I don't know a lot about NASCAR, but I'm pretty sure people don't want anyone to die by any means. Yeah. But I think the crashes are part of the excitement or the potential for crashes.
They're surprisingly safe. They have a lot of safety measures in that people don't get seriously hurt, surprisingly.
Well, I mean,
from those crashes, but like
football stars also accept a certain amount of risk.
People have died.
So yes,
right.
People have
died.
Yes, absolutely. And so they do represent these crashes. Now, Chick, the bad guy, he plays dirty. So he purposely trips up other cars and makes them crash. Yeah. This is important. So Doc had an accident. He'd won 3 piston cups in a row. And Lightning McQueen just finds them in a shed somewhere, just strewn aside willy-nilly. And he's like, how could you abandon these piston cups? And Paul Newman's like, oh, I see some empty cups, go fix the road. That's my Paul Newman, I guess. And he's like, oh my god, you're a famous race car. And he was like, I was abandoned, like I got in a horrible accident. This is actually a pretty decent, like I wish the arc had been more about him.
That's true. People in professional sports, like horses and horse racing, they just abandoned.
Shoot them right then and there.
Yeah.
No, they don't anymore. I love horses.
But I mean, like...
But yes, so he did that. That happened. He got in a bad accident. When he recovered, they were like, you're done. You're washed up. And so he was disillusioned by this, and this is why he wanted Lightning McQueen to just leave when he saw he was a race car. I realized I'm a fast talker.
It's okay.
I was going to talk slower. We're doing fine. Anyway, so... Doc does race him. And you asked about the Cactus Patch. Doc is an old car, and he's like, I'll tell you what, if you beat me in a race, this is in the second act, he's like, if you beat me in a race, then you can go. Okay. And you don't have to fix the road. And then, of course, Doc schools him. He does a tire slide thing to get around a tight turn, like a drift or something. I don't even remember now. But he does something to get around a tight turn, and Lightning McQueen doesn't know how to get around that turn, and so he ends up at a Cactus Patch.
All right.
There you go.
I nailed it.
So, anyway... he learns to like these people. He falls in love. He fixes up the town. He buys new tires. And of course, they hit every, like musically, they hit every stop they need to. No pun intended. So they do. I think it's just called Life is a Highway.
Okay.
Life is a Highway. Why did I say it like that? Life is a Highway.
Okay.
They do Route 66, right? There's one other I can't remember now. But anyway.
Well, they can't do Highway to Hell.
No, they cannot. Just to be funny, I might bleep you on that one. But
I feel like that's on the same level as
Butts. Yes,
yeah, we're all right.
Yeah. So they eventually find him in Radiator Springs and force him to come to do the race in California. It's a 3-way race to see who breaks the tie, who gets the Piston Cup.
Oh, all right.
I should have mentioned that maybe 20 minutes ago, but we're wrapping up here, folks. So Lightning doesn't want to leave. He has his regrets because now he's learned humility or something.
Sure. You didn't, but that's fine.
And let's see. So then he goes to the track and he is trying to do his pre-show, like psych himself up sort of thing. But all he can imagine is long open roads and canyons and beautiful nature. And of course, hot cars that come with it. He also shames her for having a tramp stamp, by the way. Or like
a bumper sticker? Like what?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. He never really learns to respect women, as far as I can tell.
I should not be trying to make sense of this.
No, probably not. I will say this movie does pass the Bechdel test, but only just.
Okay.
So he is trying to psych himself up. He's not doing well until over his earpiece. Radio, I guess.
I guess.
He hears the sultry tones of Doc Paul Newman, who's going to be his pit coach.
Sure.
Pit something. The coach
boss?
person. I was going to say pit boss, but I wasn't sure if that
I don't know. That might be a restaurant thing. I have no idea.
It's a TV show about rescuing pit bulls as well.
Sure. Barbecue?
Anyway,
maybe barbecue.
He hears his voice and he's like, "Oh, Doc, you're here for me." And he's like, "I don't know for you to give up." I don't know. I don't remember what
that was a pretty good Paul Newman. I'm going to submit that.
So he's like, "Oh, I don't give up." And so Lightning McQueen doesn't give up, and he's racing. And by the way, the one who's about to retire, who I'm still calling King, I don't remember the king of the track, or his name is King, whatever. His wife is like a station wagon. It's funny. He is really nice. It's just the bad one who's bad.
Sure.
They're racing and racing and racing, and then they brought along the little Italian forklift car, and then and the Italian tire car as the pit crew.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting made fun of by Chick's pit crew, and then he pulls into the pit, and like the little forklift car he changes his tires really fast, and they all, their jaws drop or whatever. Anyway, so let's just skip ahead here. Chick pulls a dirty trick. Okay. I did not mean, I was trying to think of a way to not rhyme that, but I couldn't.
It's fine.
And he trips up again, King, for whatever, lack of better words. I hope that's his name. I hope I look it up and that's his name.
All right.
And he crashes pretty bad.
Okay.
The old car, the nice car. And Lightning is set to win the race.
Mm-hmm.
But he remembers what Doc said about how he was left high and dry.
And he didn't like that.
And he did not like that. And so he stops. He hits the brakes right before the finish line. He stops literally 2 inches from the finish line. And he goes back. And Chick crosses the finish line in first place, but everybody's watching Lightning McQueen as he goes to this injured car and pushes him the rest of the way to finish the race, because he says, "You deserve to win not win, obviously not win. You deserve to finish your last race ever." Yeah. And he pushes him across the finish line, which of course means that he is coming in third of three. Yeah. So he does lose the big race.
Well, okay, I was wrong.
But there's something he can win from his big, generous heart: the sponsorship.
Ah.
Yes. And so...
See, I didn't even think of sponsorships.
So, yeah. So Chick wins the trophy, but everybody boos him and throws things at him, even though how do they do that? Because they have no limbs. But the big sponsor, Dynaco, it does not matter at all, talks to Lightning McQueen and was like, "We want you to beat because you're a good car person.
You're a good car person.
And so you get everything you wanted anyway."
Yeah.
And I don't know. Literally the end of the movie is the only thing. I think he does move back to Radiator Springs or something like that to be with his lady love or something like that. That's the one part I'm unclear on. Mater wanted to ride in a helicopter. He got to do that. And Mater is, I wish I didn't feel this, but the truth of the matter is that Mater is a pretty endearing character.
Okay.
I think that he is a stereotype, but he's written well, and I have to say it, he's performed well by Larry the Cable Guy. I assume his last name is the Cable Guy, all one word. So Mr.
His
the Cable Guy.
real name is probably like Brendan McKee or something.
You've always used Brendan, already used Brendan, so you're gonna have to come up with a different one.
Jackson.
There you go.
Jump.
Jackson Majump. Yes, famous comedian Jackson Majump. So he's played quite well. There's a touching moment where he was like talking to Lightning McQueen, and he's like, I knew I chose well, and Lightning McQueen was like, chose well for what? And he goes, my best friend. And it's like, oh man, Pixar, I hate you. I hate this movie, but my heart did just melt a little bit.
Yeah, a little.
So they do become best friends, and so you were right about that. Yeah. Problematic stuff, the way the trailers are portrayed in the beginning, the way that, again, maybe the way that minorities and immigrants are portrayed.
Yeah.
I will leave that to people who are...
The weird sexual harassment.
The weird sexual harassment.
That never really gets resolved, apparently.
As a woman, I can definitely speak on that one. He learns to be a better person, but I don't see explicit evidence that he has learned to respect women. And, I mean, it is just... We need to stop seeing these arcs of men who are jerks in the beginning and express this through like legit sexual harassment and quote learn their lesson and are then without ever explicitly seeming to learn their lesson about the sexual harassment bit. They just kind of learn a general lesson about being good people.
So it's like part of their character as being like somebody who needs work, that they're harassing somebody, but then they were like, oh, I've learned my lesson, but like that never comes back.
That's expressed as more of a character flaw.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's he's flawed. Look, he doesn't know how to treat women, but then they're rewarded with the woman love interest at the end
anyway, and like we didn't actually get that.
I want to be done with that character. I do, and it turns out, by the way, she was a big city lawyer in Los Angeles, which is. He asked how a Porsche could end up in a small town, and she said that she felt unfulfilled and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah. So that's Cars in a nutshell. We went a little longer than our usual, but we were always planning on releasing this episode either special or...
episode.
It's a bonus episode or it's an in-betweener episode. Like, I'm going to be giving birth soon.
Yeah.
I think... I want to keep talking, honestly, because there's so much to analyze in this movie. I mean, like, here's the last thing I'll say. So in this small town, there's a military surplus guy.
Okay.
I don't really know a lot about him. There's also a VW bus who is...
I thought the bugs were bugs, though.
VW bus.
Okay.
Yep. And so, and he is a stoner. And we're going to talk about this in... I am convinced that it might not be released yet at time of, like, whoever's listening to this, but... when we talk about The Secret Life of Pets 2, if we do, I'm convinced we're going to do an episode on that.
Eventually.
But the idea, and on Finding Nemo, actually. The idea of doing a quote adult joke in a kids movie so that adults will be entertained. What type of adult joke that only adults get is good, and what type is bad.
Yeah.
I'm so sick and tired of seeing these stoner jokes in kids movies because kids still ask questions. And I don't want to have to explain to my 5-year-old what a stoner is.
Yeah, it's just not that funny either. Just like, oh yeah, he's stoned. Like an adult gets it.
Yeah.
Whereas like that person is on
So the VW
drug.
bus is constantly stoned and talking about his like organic motor oil and all that. And it's like, look, if marijuana is your lifestyle or you do pot or whatever.
And it's legal in several states.
Yeah, it's now legal now.
That's not my judges.
Yeah, and it's not dangerous. It doesn't really belong in a kid's movie.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I was going to say is this movie and Secret Life of Pets 2, and I think so many others, have jokes about being high.
Yeah.
And even in the capacity of pot, which is not really a dangerous or addictive substance, it feels jarring.
And I made reference to him getting drunk on motor oil, which is a legal substance, but I knew I was wrong because I thought that was something that they couldn't do.
Inebriation is something that, like, I feel like if he had gone on an equivalent bender of like whatever they decided liquor was, that wouldn't have been allowed.
It wouldn't have been,
But the VW bus car being high all the time
is just a joke for the parents.
Yeah, I don't get how that makes it okay. I mean, there's literally when Lightning McQueen is destroying the road because he's all tangled up and stuff. The VW bus says something like, "Other people can see this too, right?" And like,
yeah.
First of all, marijuana does not cause hallucinations,
No.
right? So that's implying that he's on something harder. And so, yeah, I just wanted to touch on, like, I understand there have been some jokes in kids' movies that I have laughed at and appreciated. And I think that they can be done appropriately. And I think that this stoner thing and getting high and drugs is inappropriate and not a conversation that I want to have with my kid.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to pass judgment on people who use substances or whatever. I just...
In a responsible way.
In a responsible way, yes, for sure. I mean, I think it's quite obvious that I am more a narc than anything else. I've never done anything stronger than caffeine and the occasional, like, drink. But, like, I just never was into it. And so I'm trying not to sound judgy or superior. I think there's a time and a place for jokes like that.
Yeah.
And it's not a kid's movie. But we talked probably too long about the stoner VW bus who really doesn't matter at all.
All the more reason for them to not be there.
To the plot is what I mean. He doesn't matter to the plot heavily. So so that's Cars. I've now seen it a lot because Warren knows how to open Disney Plus on my phone.
On your phone, which is why I haven't seen it.
Yes. And I don't think it holds up well. I think that it has some good moments and some good acting. But yeah, that's it. So I'll do our usual sign off. I'd like to thank you for doing our opening and closing music. That song track doesn't have a name. It's just you being our musical composer.
Yeah.
If you'd like to find us on social media, you can certainly look us up on Facebook or Twitter. We are at NotAgainPod. And we hope that, I don't know when you're hearing this, but we hope that you'll tune in again next time for Not Again, for whatever we're listening to, or whatever we're watching. And I've been Rebecca.
I'm Alan.
And thanks so much for listening.